A new study shows the harms on children from using tablets for extended periods of time. Here's a clip. Canceled.
I've spent plenty of time on this show explaining my problem with studies, and there's nothing wrong in principle with the idea of conducting a study. Doing a study just means that you're studying something. I'm not opposed to that. The problem, as I've argued, is that so many studies use shoddy methodology in order to arrive at a predetermined conclusion, and then those same studies are used as ammunition in political arguments by people who haven't read them. But on the other end of the spectrum are studies that are entirely valid and reach legitimate conclusions by following the scientific process, and yet are still a waste of time because they prove something that everyone should already know intuitively without any scientific study telling them. You have studies that come to fake conclusions, and then you have studies that come to foregone conclusions, self-evident conclusions. This week, the media is reporting on one that falls very much into that latter category, or at least I would have hoped that it falls into the latter category. I would like to believe that everyone already knows this and doesn't need any scientific research to tell them, but perhaps it turns out I'm wrong. CNN reports, quote, handing your baby a phone or tablet to play with may seem like a harmless solution when you're busy, but it could quickly affect their development, a new study has found. Now, it's a brief sidebar here.
Sense.
I guess my initial theory has already taken a hit. The optimistic part of me, a part that is growing smaller and smaller by the day, would have liked to think that every parent understands that getting your baby hooked on a tablet is most certainly not a harmless solution, nor is it a healthy way to deal with the busyness of life. But that's not the impression you get from the first sentence of this article. And reading on, quote, having anywhere from 1 to 4 hours of screen time per day at age 1 is linked with higher risks of developmental delays in communication, fine motor, problem solving, and personal and social skills by age 2, according to a study of 7,097 children published Monday in the journal JAMA Pediatrics. Quoted,
What does a baby even do on a phone? Are they smart enough to play games or watch videos, I guess? Interesting. Do 1-year-olds really even watch TV?
It's a really important study because it has a very large sample size of children who've been followed for several years, said Dr. Jason Nagata, Associate Professor of Pediatrics at the University of California, San Francisco, who was not involved in the study. Quote, the study fills an important gap because it identifies specific developmental delays in skills such as communication and problem solving associated with screen time, said Nagata, noting there haven't been many prior studies that studied this issue with several years of follow-up data. Now, I just want to emphasize this. 4 hours of screen time at age 1.
That's
4
outrageous.
hours at age 1. Keep in mind that children...
I work on my computer because I run a YouTube channel, but I don't spend 4 hours on my phone per day.
Age 1, I mean, these...
Again, I'm on my computer, but phone or tablet, no, I don't really use it. I'm on my computer for my job, really. I don't know, honestly, like if I'm not doing it for my job, I do watch TV. I don't have a TV, so I watch that on my computer too. But still, like, yeah, it's crazy how much they have for a little kid, 4 hours. It's outrageous.
These are babies we're talking about. People are plopping their babies in front of screens for 4 hours, apparently. But children at that age, they typically nap twice a day. So you might get 3 or 4 hours of napping out of a baby. Most likely, also, you're putting them down for bed like at 8 or 8:30, maybe earlier. The point is that they're only awake for 7 or 8 hours a day, which means that 4 hours of screen time is half of their waking hours at the age of 1. And this is what parents are doing, apparently. And here are the results of that parenting decision. Quote,
Why don't they give them
the study
toys?
measured how many hours children used screens per day at age 1 and how they performed in several developmental domains, communication skills, fine motor skills, personal and social skills, and problem-solving skills at ages 2 and 4. Both measures were according to the mother's self-reports. By age 2, those who had up to 4 hours of screen time per day were up to 3 times more likely to experience developmental delays in communication and problem-solving skills. Those who had spent 4 or more hours with screens were 4.8 times more likely to have underdeveloped communication skills, 1.7 times more likely to have subpar fine motor skills, and 2 times more likely to have underdeveloped personal and social skills by age 2. Potential harms of screen time on communication skills may have to do with children being robbed of drivers for language development. Technology use can take time away from interpersonal relationships that nurture social skills, since real people are more multidimensional than characters on a screen. Looking at people's faces is when our brains turn on to figure out how to interact with them. If children don't have enough time to play or are handed a tablet to pacify negative emotions, that can prevent the important developmental milestone that is the ability to navigate discomfort. Now, normally I'm skeptical of studies that depend on self-reported data, but That's because participants are inevitably biased in their own favor when self-reporting. What that means for this research is that actually the situation is probably much worse than what we're told. If parents are going to skew the data at all, they'll do it to undercount the amount of time their kids spend on screens and underestimate the developmental delays. It seems very unlikely that any parent would exaggerate the amount of screen time to make it sound like they plop their kids in front of screens more often than they really do. So the point is that the real story is even more concerning than what's presented here. It's especially the case when you zoom out and view the problem through a wider lens. Kids are put on screens, as we've now seen, practically from birth, and they'll stay on them through their entire childhood, hardly taking a break, hardly ever looking up to take in the physical world around them. It's difficult to find reliable estimates on the average amount of time kids are spending on screens, in part because this data is, again, always going to be self-reported, and the people doing the self-reporting are incentivized to underestimate. But even with that limitation, the surveys I've seen all seem to agree that children between the ages of 8 and 18 spend on average around 8 or 9 hours a day on screens. I've seen some estimates that say 10 hours. And that's just for entertainment purposes. Doesn't count schoolwork. It's even harder to find reliable estimates for kids younger than 8, but we know that they don't suddenly jump on the screens at 8 years old and spend 8 hours on them. So we know that. And 8 or 9 hours of screen time is probably an extremely conservative estimate. Yet even taking it at face value, this would mean that millions of children are essentially spending every waking moment when they're not in school staring at screens. This is their whole life. And most of that time is spent on phones and tablets, not on the TV. A survey back in 2019 found that over half of kids in the U.S. have phones with internet access by the age of...
Yeah, that is interesting. Like a TV, they'll get up and play and move. If you're just stuck on a phone, you're probably just sitting on the couch, right, not moving. That's a really good point I never thought of before.
11. 20% of children have them before the age of 8. That's phones with internet access before the age of 8. It was in 2019, so we can be sure that those numbers have all gone up considerably in the 4 years since the survey was conducted. And although plenty of studies, including the most recent one, have revealed some of the damage this is doing to our kids, no study can paint a complete picture. We're only just now beginning to see what that looks like, what the full picture is, as the first generation of kids raised from birth on screens, smartphones, internet, begins to reach adulthood. And the results are quite dire, only getting worse over time. I mean, Gen Z is the fattest, loneliest, most depressed, most anxious, least motivated, least ambitious generation of human beings to ever live on the planet. All the statistics bear that out. They have difficulty forming human connections and relationships. They're mostly uninterested in even trying. They're deeply confused about themselves, about the world. Incredibly ignorant. Gender confusion has reached never-before-seen highs in this group. They spent their whole lives staring at screens. They never knew life without it. And that's having exactly the kind of impact that any rational person should expect. So why would parents set their children up for this? Why would you do this to your kid? Why would you intentionally put your child in a position where they will become totally addicted to and dependent on screens and unable to function as normal human beings in the world without them? Why would you actively ensure that your child has unfettered access to the internet, where he'll be exposed to all manner of ugliness and depravity and degeneracy, which he'll absorb and internalize during the formative years of his life? Why would you allow your child to spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day laying around and staring at a little glowing box instead of going out into the fresh air and having a real childhood, whether he likes it or not? Well, whatever answer parents might give, whatever they tell themselves, the truth is clear. I mean, they do it out of sheer laziness.
Yeah.
And some will actually admit this. Here's one mother on TikTok explaining in the very TikTok way why she gives her kids tablets. Watch. Because they're annoying, she says. The video, why would you give your kids tablets? She says, because they're annoying. Like, the kids are annoying. That's what she's saying. She's a bad mother.
Why'd you have kids?
She wanted to make a video to let everyone know that she's a bad mother. It was very important to let everyone know. Now, that video has 5,000 likes. Many mothers have jumped into the comment section to give their amens. One says, quote, LOL, I like your thinking. Totally guilty of this too. Another says, They really do be like that, though. It's the only thing besides sticking their hands in outlets that keeps them occupied, LMAO. Another says, as my kid sits there on her phone and I'm on my phone, silence. Another says,
What?
yes, I just bought the twins one. Many similar comments. And then there's this, only full-time parents would understand.
Oh, is that
so?
what it is?
Well, I'm a full-time parent. I have 6 kids, all of them 10 and younger, 3 under 4
Wow.
years old. None of them have phones or tablets. And I can guarantee you my wife and I have much busier lives than any of the women in that comment section, by a considerable margin probably. Now, look, we're not perfect parents by any stretch of the imagination, but the point is that parents who pull this, well, you'll understand when you're a parent. Yeah, you might judge parents for giving their kids tablets and having them on the screens, but yeah, when you're a parent, you'll understand. No, that's a cope. That's a rationalization. You are lazy and neglectful. You're more worried about making your kid shut up and leave you alone than actually raising him and helping him to become
it's
a good,
messed up. Why'd you
happy,
even have kids?
well-adjusted person. You're a parent who doesn't want to parent. And mostly you don't want to parent so that you can spend all of your time on your own screen.
I know. What is that?
Your entire home life is centered around the screen. The screen has cannibalized everything. It has defined you and your family. You're not even a family. You're just a collection of human beings living in the same house, staring at screens.
So dystopian.
Is this really the kind of life you want? Is this the kind of life you want your kid to have?
Evidently.
What is the point of a life that is spent doing nothing but staring mindlessly at a glowing box? These are the questions you should ask yourself. And if you're giving a tablet to your 1-year-old to spend hours a day on, then you really need to ask yourself this question. In the meantime, put down the screen. Take the screen away from your child. Take him outside. Play a board game with him. Play hide and seek. Have a conversation, if you can imagine. Read him a book. Do something, for God's sake. Love your child enough to pay attention to him for more than 30 seconds at a time. Takes a little bit of effort, but it's not so difficult as you think. It's worth a try at least. Otherwise, you're canceled.
You're canceled. Yeah, that's hilarious. This is just nuts. It's kind of, I want to say it's unbelievable, but that's terrible wording. It's crazy. This is what society's become. I don't know. I don't think kids having a tablet per se is like the worst, but exactly. When you just shove it in their face and okay, just go on your tablet. If your kid wants to play educational games and stuff, having access to the unfettered access to the internet is nuts until they're 13, maybe even 18, way older. There's so much crazy stuff and there's so many predators and everything out there. Why would you want your kids to be able to have access to that? But I always say phones and stuff, kids having phones, I don't think is that big of a, what if you need to reach your kid? And there's a lot of educational phone apps and stuff out there. But you need parental controls and stuff like that because kids are curious. Even if they know it's wrong, they're going to go do it because they don't really understand the consequences. They're kids. So they'll go and be like, oh, I want to try the internet. My friend Johnny, he has it. I want to go use it. Just talk to them. That's why you don't just give them a box. You say, okay, this is why you can't go on the internet. This is on there. It's harmful. It's scary. There's some good stuff. And then you could go on the internet together with them and be like, oh, this is what we can have. Let's teach them how to use it because that you kind of need it as a life skill nowadays. So I would say, and that's how the tablet is in general. You kind of want your kid to have some experience with it, I would think. But Matt not having his kids have tablets, I definitely get it. But I don't like how the parents, they just give them their kids a tablet. They like the study was showing that it breaks motor skills, social skills. I could definitely see that. You're going to be scared of people if you're never interacting with people. Personally, when I hang out with people, when my friends come by and stuff, we never use screens and stuff unless it's UFC. We just chill, have a drink, and chill on the couch and just have conversation. That's what I like to do, so I'm like, that's what you should do with your kids, minus the drinking, obviously. But, just hang out, play, and have some conversation. You want to go on, watch TV at the end of the night, or maybe play a game here and there. I don't really see anything wrong with that. But 4 hours a day, it should be like an hour a night, if that. And not in most days, or a lot of days, you go out and do stuff. Take them out to do stuff. It's interesting. And a lot of these people live in cities and stuff too, probably. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I live in Austin. I see people bringing their kids to do stuff all the time, like downtown to the parks and stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy that this is like what people want to do to parent now. And they shouldn't even have kids. It sounds like they hate kids because your kids are annoying. Like, okay, that is just, maybe they're annoying because you don't give them any attention. So the only way you'll give them attention is if they're annoying. Did you ever think of that?
If you like this video, be sure to subscribe for daily news updates, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and share your thoughts on the story in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.